something that Kaipacha wrote, and he talks about removing what's been previously relied upon for sustenance, which induces the need and longing for something new or more. Then he talks about experiencing loss, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And then he says the challenge is to continue moving through these stages without getting stuck in any of them too long. And Uranus is going direct next week, and then we will have all planets in direct motion, except for the 3 weeks that Mercury's retrograde in early February, until the end of April. So, squares, direct motion, everything being ruled. Saturn's in charge right now.
Saturn large and in charge.
Large and in charge, right? Change, innovation, overwhelm. Again, change. We talked about that before. That's my theme song for this year. Hello and welcome to In My Experience. I'm your host, Sonya Lee.
And I am your hostess.
With the mostest.
Hostess with the mostest, Piperlyne. And thank you for joining us today. So it's an interesting day, isn't it, Sonya?
It is. It's been an interesting year thus far.
Well, yeah. What did I see? Dear 2021.
Oh, yeah.
I've tried my 7-day free subscription and like to go ahead and cancel.
Yes. Yes.
Before you charge me anymore, and we'll go on to 2022.
Yes.
So
choose not to subscribe.
Yes.
Because I don't know how well that's really going to work in the physical.
No.
Short of leaving the planet, which unless you're ready to do that.
Yeah. So we're here.
Might need a plan B.
Subscribed or unsubscribed, we are participants.
And that, brings us to your introduction, because this week that we're recording, we'll be talking about things that happened last week by the time it hits your ears.
Right.
And what a week.
Yes. Hello, Sally. Whoever Sally is.
Right?
How you doing?
Sally?
I don't know.
What did she do?
I have no idea. Sally, whoever you are.
Right.
But yes, so I don't know, Wednesday I woke up with a headache that I thought was going to split my brain open. And for those of you who are listening and in the United States, which is where we are, so that is our point of view, where we're coming from, Wednesday was intense.
Yeah.
And if you're an empath, you may have very well felt it in your body or your energy before there was any understanding.
I didn't sleep at all the night before.
Yeah. Yeah, you felt something different. So I had a headache that I thought literally was going to split my head open. I thought I was going to have to go to the emergency room.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never had a pain like this. I'm having an aneurysm.
Wow.
And I don't live in that world of right. Every time I hurt, I'm dying. Some people do. I don't. Wow. Thank goodness.
Right.
But you experienced something different in your body.
Mm-hmm. Lack of sleep. Lack of, why am I just laying here wide awake, staring at the ceiling when I could be having good sleeps right now? And my people weren't talking to me. Like, I was just literally just like, so we're just laying in bed?
So this is what we're going to do?
And then, of course, the next day it was like, okay. And it didn't feel like anxiety or anything like that. I was a little irritated because I just wanted to sleep, and sleep just eluded me.
I was sad because I was in so much pain. Yeah. I wasn't feeling anxiety or anything like that. But if you are an empath, you may have experienced feelings emotional.
And maybe didn't know what it was.
Right.
Why am
Or
I
pain
feeling
in your
this way
body,
today?
nightmares,
Mm-hmm.
right? All of those things. It's because, I mean, what happened on Wednesday in the United States, that's a big thing.
Yep.
It's a big thing. And there's going to carry a lot of energy that happens before, during, and after. And you could have been just tapped into that unknowingly. Like I said, I had no idea what was going to happen on the 6th.
Yes.
Until it happened. And I was like, oh, that's why I thought my head was going to explode. But also, ironically, I just want to share. So we have a Instagram page. If y'all aren't on it, you may want to follow it. It's in _my_experience on Instagram. And so once again, before anything began occurring on Wednesday, I posted this on our Instagram and on our Facebook page, which is also once again in my experience. And the image says, compassionately witnessing someone in their darkness gives them permission to step into the light. And I think, ironically, or not ironically, because everything is perfect in its own time, that there is a lot that we could look at. Someone, someone's, something, some things in their darkness. And the call to compassionately witness. So I thought it was fitting, and I wanted to share. And as Sonya and I create this, I mean, honestly, when we sit down to do this podcast, we chat just, about what happened in the world, what happened with us, and there's many similarities, and then we just start talking from there.
Yes.
And so everything that we do is organic. Our Facebook page is organic. Our Facebook group is organic. Instagram, it's all organic, and it all works together. So if you join us on our Instagram or join us on our Facebook page or Facebook group in my experience community, you'll be able to dive further into this whole process with us.
I was trying to remember the name of the organization that did the frequency, like they took these little earthquake readers and they put them all over the world, and they were measuring like collective frequencies. And I know there's been some stuff out there that's tried to debunk it, but there was something about,
so like scientific reader. Okay.
And the thing that struck me was, I remember when they talked about on 9/11, like in the days before 9/11 happened here in America, they saw these huge spikes in frequency. So before we had that moment, which changed us, this college that was doing this study,
interesting,
actually had, and then there's like their random number generators and that sort of thing. But I'll find it, and when I do, I'll put the link up there. But they did seismic monitoring of collective feelings, and they have done several, and where they have seen these peaks and spikes in this whenever something happened that affected the collective.
Right.
And so I found that so very interesting back then. Like I said, I've gone and I've read some other things after the fact that have said where it was debunked and this, that, and the other. I like to believe that, yes, we are all part of the web. And so while we are individual sovereign beings, we still emit frequencies. We still have vibrations. Vibrations can collide and interact and intersect and all of that. And the reason I bring that up is because I want to go see if I can find that and see if there was anything
interesting
that led up. And that's what was so interesting, is it wasn't that we had that peak at the time of that collective moment.
Right.
It was prior to.
Absolutely.
And so, and not to say that, the whole world revolves around America. However, I do believe that moment in time was a global moment.
Right. It alters a lot of different things, even if it doesn't affect your life personally.
Right. Like just the mere fact that we stopped all air traffic to our country had a ripple effect around the rest of the globe.
Absolutely.
And I believe that what happened yesterday probably did the same.
Right.
Although for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's from that space that I've tried to sit and stay in recognizing that rather than this just being necessarily a humanistic thing, it was more of more of a physical, a metaphysical.
Mm-hmm.
And to look at it from that perspective so that I can understand the why
Right.
of what transpired.
Trying to take the higher perspective. And when we talk about that a lot, looking at getting out of the human perspective, because the human perspective, I mean, we are human, we are here, it is part of our experience. But we can get tied up in the drama. And there was a lot of drama that day, and the drama continues within the United States, and will, by the things that we look at, will like continue for almost the rest of the month, and then continuing for even further. But yeah, that higher perspective that strangely enough, if you can ground yourself, you can reach the higher perspective. Trees with deeper roots can get up higher.
That's right. To get more sunlight.
Right.
And that's what this is about. It's about bringing in more light and reading what Kai Pacha was talking about on his Astrology for the Soul podcast, which came out on January 6th. He talks about how this is the beginning of an initiation, and it's not going to go away. It's not going to just be like a one and done. Look, there's a confirmation. We're going to, right? We're going to be sitting with this for a while, because what is happening, as with any initiation, is you have to remove things that were previously relied upon. Right. Like when you are initiated into, a club or a church or whatever, you take the rites, or when you initiate to become a citizen, or when you initiate to become like a member of law enforcement or get married or whatever, right? You enter into an agreement, and you have to let go of some things that you previously did or previously relied upon in order to take in this new undertaking. And so he talks about how this is where we're at right now, and collectively we're moving through the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, stages of grief right now.
Well, how many things did we have to give up in 2020?
Exactly.
I mean, we were forced to, for one reason or another. I mean, there are many people that have faced the loss of loved ones, loss of income, loss of security, loss of connection with friends and family, loss of perceived rights.
Oh yeah.
Loss of rights. So there's any point of view. Ask anyone, regardless of what their perception is of what happened. I guarantee you, they can tell you something that they've lost.
Oh yeah.
So we were forced to.
Yep.
Universally, we were forced to. This was not something that we got to say, oh no, I don't want to participate.
No,
thank you.
No.
Now, it affected many people differently, and some much worse than others.
Yes.
But everyone was forced to give up some things.
Yes.
Right? So that's what 2020 was. And so here we are, 2021, the grieving process. Absolutely. There's more that he says, right, about that? Did you share that?
Yes, there is. He talks about how we move through these stages without getting stuck in any one of them for too long. And, this can take time to go through this process, like any sort of grief process. The key is not to get stuck.
Right.
And because it's not static. It's fluid. This is moving. It is flowing. It is moving us on down the river. And
sometimes really a lot faster than we want it to.
Oh, and it's just going to continue, because this is not just, tying up the loose ends of 2020. 2020 was the beginnings of the rites of initiation. 2021, maybe even 2022, will continue to be more of that initiation process. You think about like the Aborigines, right? When they are about to move into a manhood, they go on walkabout.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes more than just a day.
Right.
Like they can be gone for months, sometimes years.
It's a process.
It's
yes.
a process. And so we're only talking about this because we want to give some hope and some perspective to not go into fear, not go into hate, not go into Chicken Little. The sky is not falling.
Mm-hmm.
We're just recognizing that the sky isn't what we thought it was.
Right.
And this is part, the astrology speaks to this. I mean, this is Uranus and Taurus. It is waking up Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's shaking the crap out of us right now.
Right.
Um,
Everything that we felt was secure or safe, things that brought us comfort,
things that we thought we knew for certain of.
Right.
Is uncertain now.
Right, absolutely.
When you make a change, I mean, I think about if you want to stop smoking, for example. Some people can just say, I don't want to smoke anymore, and they just don't ever pick up another cigarette. Other people need to take, a pill or a patch or a gum or have hypnosis or a rubber band. Remember that aversion therapy?
Yeah.
To get you to stop. Some people, stop and then start again, and then stop and then start again a couple of times before they do it. It just depends on, who you are, what's motivating you, and what you truly want to see. And that's the thing. So many people thought they wanted something, and in the face of, okay, be careful what you wish for, are finding it a little scarier than they thought. Last week I talked about my writing the Colossal, which I think is what the name of that ride was at
gotcha.
Magic Mountain.
Gotcha.
And, just dipping out every time before I got to actually
change
get
my
in.
mind, thanks.
It's like, I want to do this. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this. And, while some may say you're oversimplifying or you're making more of this than it is, because there's two camps there.
Right.
It's all about the focus. And right now we're focusing from a higher, broader, bigger perspective.
Right.
Of we all can agree that life as it has been just isn't really working.
Right. Just about anyone can say that there were things that needed to be addressed and fixed. And even if we disagreed on what those were, or we agreed on what they were, but how they needed to be addressed, there was a communal agreement that things are not working.
Yes.
And, what was I going to say? Oh, talking about the higher perspective. I mean, I want to jump in and say from my experience that, don't get me wrong when I'm talking, I was all in the humanity of it, right? So I was all in the drama because it's human drama, and that is not to belittle or play down.
We're not spiritually bypassing what happened in the physical realm.
No, not in the least.
We both got triggered hard by various
things.
I won't label it, thank you.
Various things. So yeah, we have both been there, and we talked about that too, about the humanity of it and how it, bumped up against certain beliefs or things that we think are right or wrong, and brought up fear within ourselves and all of that. So I just wanted to make that clear, because that's not what this is about.
No, we're not saying one side was right or wrong, or any side was right or wrong.
Right. And not downplaying what happened. It's just that the truth is, if you want to dive into the humanity of it, there's a lot of other people or groups that you could talk to that would probably be much well
there
versed.
with you.
Right. And so you do you. I did that. I'll be honest with you. I stepped into it and then I stepped out. And so we want to talk about what we do best. And that is, okay, that happened. It was shit. There's some more other things happening.
They'll probably be shit.
That'll probably be shit that aren't really cool.
And yet.
But while we're in it, we don't have to be, how can I explain it? We're in it because we're human form.
Sure.
So we're here. We're in humanity, but we don't have to muck around in it. We don't have to.
You can sit in it, just don't live in it.
Yeah.
Is a Sonyaism.
There you go.
Don't live in it, because to live in it is to continue to perpetuate the cycle of things that we know don't work anymore.
Right.
And while radical change is called for, radicalism is not.
There you
if
go.
I may say that.
And that's a valid way to put it. And that's there's a true difference in that vocabulary.
Yeah.
Radicalism and radical change.
Yeah.
Very different things.
And radical forgiveness. Like one of the things that...
Radical love.
And radical love, yes. They gave me goosebumps. One of the things that I had to go to help talk me off the ledge that day was to say, what do I do with this?
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Like, okay, this is in front of me. What do I do with it? If anything, right? But that's what I ask my people. What do I do with this?
Right.
And what I got was, and you're going to laugh, but this is how my messages come to me sometimes. My mother was working, cleaning out her room, and she brought out an envelope and she said, look at what I found. And in it was a bunch of old family photos that had come from someone else that had passed on, and they were going through their belongings. And also in that was a picture of me at the age of 5. And I shared that on my Facebook social media for Throwback Thursday. I know I have seen that picture before, and I have some of my pictures from childhood, like school pictures. I don't have that one. And it was one of those little teeny tiny ones. I was 5. And I clearly got, and you're going to go, what does that have to do with anything? Well, because this is how they talk to me, and this is how I get it. What I clearly got was, be 5 years old. And what do 5-year-olds do? What those 5-year-olds did.
Right.
And as Piperlyne would say, rightly, some of them were acting like 2-year-olds, smearing crap on the walls. Come on.
They didn't even reach 5.
They didn't even make it to 5.
Right.
And how would I respond to that 5-year-old? How do I respond to the 5-year-old within me? And boy.
Well, yeah, when we start talking about worries about our safety and security, that goes deep, deep, deep into
that foundation.
Right.
First 5 years of your life.
Absolutely.
Knowledge, we've talked about this before. So 2 things simultaneously happened. To put my inner child on my lap and told little Sonya everything's going to be okay. Grown-ups are acting a little crazy, but don't worry. They're, reminds me of when I was a little girl and they would have these parties and everybody would get drunk and get real loud and sometimes even fight with each other, and I'd lay in bed and be afraid that somebody was going to, my uncles were going to kill each other or something. And, fortunately for us and our family, it never came to that. But it could get that hot, and if you have any experience with dysfunctional families, then you know of what I speak.
Yes. You're like, oh, I understand.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been there. And then it also helped me to see and understand that those scary people were also 5-year-olds.
Right.
And so how can I handle and address that? Not that I needed to go out and do anything I didn't, but in my mind's eye, in the capacity of the vibration that I am able to emit and add to the collective, I was able to shift into the appropriate space for me to be able to appropriately exercise radical forgiveness, radical love, and also good, firm boundaries. Because I'm not making exceptions or or excuses for anything or anyone. I could sit here with you today and talk about all the wrong and lay all the blame in all the places for either side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, we want to take this to a higher perspective. There's a purpose in this. Please don't lose sight of the purpose in this.
I feel like when you said that, you touched on something that really resonated with me too, was that, I got this information and then I sat with it internally. So these external events that happen in the world and in our lives that we can't, like I personally can't control anything that happened over there.
Not a single thing.
So I can't control it, but it affects me.
Yes.
Right? So, and that happens to all of us, and that's even scarier.
Sure.
When something is happening out there outside of our control, it changes what is my life, and I can't do anything about that. So that's scary.
Yes.
That's triggering, regardless of what that thing is.
Yeah.
So then, in my perspective, because I've had a good number of practice being there. We probably all have, right? And so in my perspective, exactly what Sonya said. Okay, so that occurred. What do I do with what I feel about it? And literally that can be anything.
Sure.
Based off of who you are, you may choose to pray, you may choose to meditate, you may choose to eat lots of chocolate. Mm-hmm. You may choose to become engaged in something.
Sure. Go down and riot in the streets against the people that are rioting in the streets.
And there's a million things that you could choose to do based off of who you are. But the only way that I ever felt like I had any choice in those types of things was in what I did, what I felt, what I thought, what I processed, and then what I chose.
Yes. Yes.
And
took responsibility.
Well, absolutely.
For that as well, too.
Absolutely. Because it is all me.
Right. And again, no excuses, no exceptions. This is life, and we're learning to, when life is out of control, who are you going to call? Right?
Right.
I mean, I guess you could call the Ghostbusters, but and this was beautiful going back to Kaipacha, because this was his mantra for this week, and I'm going to share it. With so much of life out of control, I need to go beyond. Mm-hmm. Pierce the veil between the worlds and reconcile with the divine. We are all just taking care of ourselves together.
Right.
And when I remember that, I can have compassion, I can have love, I can have forgiveness for everyone and everything outside of me.
Right.
Because I'm safe. And it all boils down to, do you feel safe? I saw so many examples of not safe, dangerous,
absolutely,
threatening.
Right.
There was so many words being thrown out there that to me just continued to just stoke the fire of fear and hatred and division. And again, taking that to a higher perspective, if we could learn our lessons lovingly, gently, happily, we would. It's been my experience. It's a good old smack upside the head that did the trick.
Right.
Or a dressing down.
Right. The soft little whisper in your ear that says, that's not working. Yeah. Try it differently.
And that's the initiation. We talk a lot about not being weak asses, that we're strong asses. Maybe sometimes a little too strong. Coming on a little too strong. I don't know. What I believe for myself, and as an opinion for society as a whole, is doubling down on righteousness, on rightness, doesn't solve anything.
Right.
it just creates a bigger gap. You can't come together if you continue to shove each other away from each other.
Right.
Shove each other away from each other. Okay, whatever.
It works.
It works. You know what I mean.
It's understandable.
You know what I mean. And I mean, that to me is like, so what am I here to do on this planet? To help people embody unconditional love. So we could have talked about anything today. I could have kept my mouth shut. We really try hard not to go into these arenas because we just want to talk about our experiences, because the landscapes change. The backdrops change.
Right.
You know, with the core, the crux is your own spiritual human experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that growth and that development. We're going to come back and we're going to do this again. I know some of y'all don't want to hear that.
La 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 la. Yeah. Fingers in my ears. La 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 la.
So but we're about growing, not dying.
Right.
We're about life, not death. We're about love, not hate. We have to allow what needs to be destroyed or repatterned, repurposed, recycled to be so. Right?
Right.
Like one of the things that I've been dealing with my, with helping my mother sort of go through and clean out things. Yes, she's got a lot of stuff she's held on to. And I try very hard to not just say, this is junk, get rid of it. Why are you keeping this garbage? Because that would insult me.
Right.
And I don't want to insult her.
Right.
Even if I feel that way. Anyway, in our initiation of this life experience,
mm-hmm.
These are the things, like, we're not here to just, learn how to make a wheel. We're not learning how to not put people on racks. Like, we've grown so much as a human species. We have so much to be proud of. And I know that day really felt like we stepped back a few steps. And we did. But sometimes we have to look at history so that we can make sure we don't repeat history. And that does harken back to the days of our founding fathers.
Mm-hmm.
When they did settle things. I mean, I don't remember which president it was, but I do remember, it might have been Jackson, one of them got elected and shot at his inauguration, right? And then they had to do something else. They had another election. So, we're not there. And maybe for a moment it felt like we were going back there. We're having a Pluto return right now in this country.
Right.
And, Pluto comes around every 250 years. And so most of us will not live unless something changes dramatically.
That would be very interesting.
Medicine and science. Yes. We won't see a Pluto return.
Or a personal one.
A personal one for ourselves personally. And I would have to go and look to see if any other country has had a Pluto return before us.
Well, European countries, they absolutely have. So yeah, I was thinking about that.
Do
actually.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thinking about when Pluto was discovered, like, I don't know.
Oh,
and
I don't
where
think
it's crossing.
Do we have to wait until Pluto is discovered?
Well, like I said, I'm sure that there were lots of Pluto returns that happened that we didn't aware because we didn't even know Pluto was a planet.
Oh, got you. Since 1940.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
that I don't know.
I don't know. So we'll have to look at that. So, but just, go with me on this one. Pretend if you have to. Let's say that the United States is the one that's going to be presenting the first Pluto return for the collective.
Right.
It's what it looks like.
So yeah,
here you go.
This is what happens.
This is how low can you go, right? It's death and destruction.
Yeah, I wanted to take a minute to talk about the archetype or the mythology around Pluto.
I'm going to look and see if anyone else has had a Pluto return. So.
Okay. All right. So the energy of Pluto is about tearing down and rebuilding. It is regeneration. It is death and regrowth. It can be chaos, but it doesn't necessarily, I mean, like, Uranus is usually more chaos, but there can be chaos in the death and regrowth just because of what it signifies. But I mean, it gets down, it tears up everything. It goes to the roots. It is, and beyond. It is a deep transformation. It is, not just going to get your hair cut and colored, which makes me really sad that I'm not going to be getting that next week, which is why I thought of it.
Right.
But so it's that, and that can be a transformation, right? But it's not just that. It's like, living in LA and then moving to a town of 200, where you have to completely, on a farm, where you have to completely learn how to function again. And even if it's wanted, right? So we were talking about just earlier that just about everyone can agree there was things going on in this country that were not working.
Right.
That just were not working. We needed to change. So even when we want the change, it's still upheaval. It's still challenging and difficult and rubs up against all of our preconceived beliefs. All of those things that we have already believed. But it's clearing. And it puts us in a place of regeneration.
Yes.
So, when we go through that personally, there's a lot of different ways that can show up. Because we do, like she said, we're not going to go through a Pluto return, but Pluto does affect us throughout our lives without going into any more.
Sure.
But a Pluto return, which means, just for clarify that, I meant to do that when Pluto, where Pluto is located in the sky, in the chart, when the U.S. became a nation. The U.S.
was born, yes.
And then comes back around to the exact same location. That's what we mean
244 years on average. I said 250, but 244.
Yeah, for Pluto. And other planets are different. But, so yeah, it's intense. And nothing even has to be wrong for it to happen.
Right. And here's an interesting thing, too, because Lynn Hayes talks about, on her site, she's looking at the Roman Empire. And so she says nations also have astrological charts. That's what we're talking about here, right? And so these returns are significant, but none as much as Pluto because of the time and because of what it does.
Right.
But she was looking at, she says there are few empires whose influence has lasted through at least one Pluto return. She thought, but it would be interesting to look at the Roman Empire because the Roman Empire was established in 27 BCE and lasted until the abdication of the last emperor in 476 CE.
I was going to say that would have been
the second Pluto return.
Yeah.
So a major crisis doesn't always occur at the time of the planetary cycle. Oftentimes the planetary cycle sets the wheels in motion for the crisis to occur in the years following the planetary event. So this is a call to action for us here in the United States.
Right.
Use it or lose it.
And while it is...
Learn it or lose it.
And while it is, the whole thought of it is terrifying.
Sure.
Right? Losing what we thought was safe, what we thought we could rely on, what we have created, what we have built. And the thought of giving that up, losing it, or having it taken away from us is absolutely scary.
Sure.
Absolutely. The idea behind it is that is the foundation of creativity. And it goes back to, we touched on that last week. I think, didn't you go through the building of a house last week? Yeah.
Yes.
So that is the foundation of the creativity. You till the fields, you pull everything out, you fertilize, and you rebuild.
Yep.
You care for the land, and then you rebuild. So things are being pulled away, taken from us, and our job, if we choose to accept it, our mission, if we choose to accept it, is to decide what we want.
Sure.
To put in the place of that.
And Pluto also presides over the exposure of the dark underbelly, right? So it shows us the darkness. It right now it's showing us the darkness within our own,
Within our own country, absolutely.
And that has to be exposed before you can't get rid of something you don't know
Right.
is there.
And if you build a foundation on unknown darkness, your foundation ain't gonna last.
Chandler Heights knows that better than anyone because they built a lot of properties, a lot of new builds out there on land that had fissures under it, and we had issues with literally streets caving in because this were old farmlands. We have a lot of fissures here in Arizona for a lot of different reasons. We have a lot of volcanic plates and whatnot. But one of the big issues too is we've built on a lot of farmland. And when you have groundwater, which helps to keep the soil moist, and then you no longer collect that groundwater, or that groundwater, that aquifer or whatever gets emptied, you've got a big gaping hole under a few feet of soil.
Yeah.
And then you go and you put some foundation and you pound down the ground and get, like she said, to get it ready, and then you build a slab of concrete, and then you put a 2,400 square foot house, or maybe 387 of them. The ground gives way. You got great big giant holes in the middle of your street. They didn't know what was under the ground, so they couldn't predict that that was going to happen. Now, some would say maybe they should have known. Maybe they should have gotten out there. This was before we had drones, and interesting, as a result of that, and the inventions of drones, or not the inventions, but the general use, not just the military use. Let me correct myself there. That actually became quite a hot commodity for a while there, of people going out and saying, hey, we can scan that area and tell you if there's any pockets under the ground before you build. Right? But until they knew that that was an issue, nobody knew that there was a need, so there was no need to use it in that way. Right? And now, this is commonplace. So, again, death and then rebirth. Destruction and then new creation. Raise down the building and then build up a new house.
Right.
So that's where we're at. And we offer this as a way of giving you hope. To help you to see through a lens of inspiration that I don't know what's going to happen, but I can find things that I can do to help to be, as Gandhi would say, the change I want to see in the world.
Right.
To, instead of hate that person that is in opposition to me, to have some compassion, or at least try to have some understanding.
Or if nothing else, maybe just remain
neutrality.
Right.
Yes. So that we're not just continuing to feed the fires of divisiveness and hate and fear and suffering. We all suffer. Nobody wins in this.
Right.
And if you're not looking, our children are watching.
Right.
So I feel like, although we're all behaving like 5-year-olds right now, somebody needs to step up and be the adult and take these 5-year-olds in hand. We need a kindergarten teacher. Stat. So, laughter. I had a friend on Facebook the other day said he missed laughter. About broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because it's true. We've been home, we've been isolated, we've been worried, we've been fearful, we've been ripe for this to happen. We've been ripened for this. We are ripe fruit ready to be picked off of the tree.
Right. Well, if you look, taking from the higher perspective again, if you just look at the timeline of what has occurred, if you want to do it from your personal perspective in your personal life, or if you want to do it, in community, in country, in why can't I think of the word? Collective. There we go.
The collective.
Look at the timeline. Look at the chain of events that have happened, that have brought us here. And then, with that perspective, then we can make maybe clearer choices for ourselves moving forward.
And know that we can. We are not without the options and the opportunities. These are not times like, the Roman Empire fell because of the corruption, because of the hubris and the resistance to give up, to negotiate, to compromise, to change. You know, the only constant is change. I've told you guys that's the theme for 2021. We're seeing it already. If you don't allow yourself, though, to accept the truth of those words, you will suffer.
Yeah.
Change can be painful if you resist that change. And we are so in it. And the thing for me is what I saw so clearly, although imperfectly, because I'm going to give a little credit, but not that much, because I don't think it was handled very well. And there was a lot of agreement. This has got to change.
Right.
So it was imperfect, but it was clear.
Right.
You know, like if we say that we finally hit the peak, the critical mass, the apex, were there. And astrologers will say they figured 2020 was going to be about, because it started in 2017, 2018, goes through to about 2024. Right? 2024, I believe, was when Pluto.
Oh, I don't know, honestly.
Yes, 2024.
Okay.
So we've got 4 more years, right? So if we've hit like the worst part of it, now we're coming into, what do you do after the death?
Right.
Right?
Right.
You bury the dead, you put some flowers, you move on. Right? Or you create new life, right? And that's, also we see that a lot too. Someone dies, a life is born, the cycle goes on. The wheel turns.
Right.
The wheel turns, the wheel never stops turning.
You take what you've gained from the experience. And if you have to, maybe you take time to figure out what you've gained.
Sure.
Because that can take time too.
Absolutely.
And, especially if we've gone through an extremely difficult change that occurred, it can take time for us to figure out what it is that we gained, or what it is that we want to do with it, or what we want it to mean for us personally, before we can then decide what we're going to do with it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's part of the process. And
it's learning to respond and not react.
Yeah.
And that comes through maturity.
Practice. Some more practice.
A little more practice. Pluto is about collapsing things so they can be rebuilt better.
Right.
And I believe that we can
not
rebuild.
To wait laced so that everything is dead. That's not what it is.
Yeah. And not destruction just for the sake of destruction.
Right. Absolutely not.
We've seen some of that as well. We have some goddesses. That was their whole purpose in being. Destroy and then destroy. And they ended up destroying everything.
Right.
Including their masters, including themselves. Mm-hmm. And then the gods had to step in.
And then found out that didn't work. Let's try something else.
So, this is nothing new. If you're feeling like we are in uncharted waters, we are not.
No, we are not.
We are, however, in unprecedented times.
Yes.
Because I do believe that this is the opportunity for this Earth 7.0 to really ascend this time. And I may be helpful. Call me crazy.
Rose-colored glasses.
I have belief in the indomitable strength and unconditional love that we can embody for each other and for ourselves.
Right. And the planet.
And so I guess the biggest thing that I wanted to share today was that, yes, that was a really terrible moment. We need to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, get back in the game with a commitment in our heart, not our heads, in our heart, to be a better 5-year-old.
And I will say, for me personally, while these outside experiences were happening, and like I said, I dove into the humanity of it and became one of the heaving masses for a while. What I am also aware of is that personally within me, I have also seen shifts and changes about things that I want to do, how things are coming together for me personally to make changes to what I want. I have been sitting in a space of about 3 years now of I don't want this. I don't know what I want.
Correct.
I don't know where I want to go.
Correct.
I don't know what I want to do.
No idea.
But I don't want this.
Clear as a bell.
So I have been sitting there, and man, that place is frustrating, especially when you're like, okay, idea, let's do it now. So, I mean, I'm ready to move. As soon as I have an idea, I'm ready. Let's act.
That's Mars and Aries.
Yeah, I know. Let's make it happen.
And we've been in Mars and Aries.
And I still have not been able to do anything yet. But what I am finding is just as these shifts and changes on this large scale is occurring in our world, I am finding positive creative shifts that are happening internally.
Oh, yes.
Whether they are related or not, and they don't need to be. But the point is that is a real thing. And I absolutely believe, I've had this belief since I was a teenager. Yeah. What is the reason to live? What is the reason for life? I mean, I remember the first time I answered that. What is the reason that we're here?
Yes.
Mine was to experience happiness or experience joy. And like literally, that was it.
Love it.
And I had people look at me, they're like, But if you think about it, just think about it. If somehow, some way, all of us could figure out to experience joy personally within our own life, how fucking different this world would be.
Sure.
And happy people make happy choices. Joyful people make joyful choices. And so the insanity going on in the world and the shifts and changes in creativity I'm feeling personally, do they not seem to fit? Maybe they don't. But in some strange way, for me, they do because they're happening simultaneously.
Oh, yeah. And the movie that just came out at Christmas, the Pixar movie Soul.
Yes. So
great movie.
I haven't seen it yet.
Great movie to watch. And with what you just said, that's what made me think about it, which is why I mentioned it. Because what she just said, you're going to see if you watch that movie.
Oh, interesting.
Because, yes. And I'm not going to say any more than
yes.
that. Well, because I don't want to, no spoilers, right? I don't want
right.
to put any spoilers out there. But we'll talk about it after y'all watched it. So let us know when you watched it, and then I can tell you, hey, connect the dots here. Did you get that? Finding the Pluto returns. Yes, we have had, because they occur approximately every 250 years, there are a few countries that are old enough to have done it. So, we had them in 1956, 1709, 1710, 1463, 64, and 1217, 18. Morocco, Portugal, San Marino, Oman, Belgium, Finland and Norway are getting ready to go through some. There's a lot of, countries that have to be 200 years or older, but as far as you can go back and look at the history of that and some of the different things like the French Wars of Religion and the Black Death in 1332, like it's all over the place. So some people might go, astrology. This is why I think astrology is going to make a comeback this year, because this Capricorn cluster that we had all through 2019 and 2020, and now, Pluto's still hanging in there for a few years, but Pluto is like the final chapter, right? Like you had the Saturn experience, you had the Jupiter experience, you had the Mars experience, you had all of these planets that have been sitting in Capricorn, which is structures, framework, Earth.
Security, government.
Right.
Yeah, for foundations.
Institutions, all of that. And everybody's been doing all these dances. And now that they're all done and everybody's moved on, Pluto's still sitting there going, time to pay the piper.
Excuse me, we ain't done yet.
We're not done yet. So, okay, I said I wanted to give you hope, and that doesn't sound very hopeful. It's the last step. It's the final bit. And then we can move on into something new because we have to.
Right.
So the whole new normal, new. Nothing's normal. Right. About what is coming. It's new. And the sense of normalcy and normality, that's the change. That's the consistency of change that we must prepare ourselves for.
And I think it's really important to point out that Sonya's talking new. That means not looking back and saying we want to create that, because that doesn't work. We can bring forward values, and we can bring forward those things and thoughts that are important to us, but we cannot say, I want something like that, and point to any time in the past. I'm not anything, anytime. You can't say, I want to go back to that. You can't go back.
And
that's what Pluto does. No going back.
And how have we seen this play out since 2017? We want to not just go back and space exploration. We want to have space travel for civilians.
Right.
That's new.
Right.
That was never a consideration before. These things are expensive and they tend to blow up. We're not putting civilians on them.
Right.
Now we're looking at that.
Right.
Right? So that's just like one example of what we're talking about, of there's a newness, there's a difference in how we're going to do it. The newness isn't the same old tired rhetoric of it's
paradigm.
New.
It's paradigm. We're entering into a new
We're not
paradigm.
Looking at it from those perspectives anymore, because that's not new thought.
Right.
And we're still wrestling with letting go of that.
Right. We're still dealing with it.
Even in our hope and our efforts to try to eliminate racism, we're still talking about skin color.
We're still here dealing with it.
So that's not new.
No.
So again, not to get into anything that's going to make people send me hate mail. I'm merely just saying, if you can have new eyes to see a new horizon that you can only dream of.
Right.
And I say dream because this isn't a nightmare, even though it feels like one right now.
Right.
Maybe anchor into that and bring it to this present moment. Yes, we have to deal with what's sitting on the table looking at us, staring us in the face. There's nothing to stop us to say, and I'm setting a new course.
See, and so I love it. I love it. I love it. She said, and. It's not either or.
Right.
It's not, okay, this shit is going on, so there's nothing else I can do. Or I'm just going to focus on what I want and I'm going to ignore this. Right. It's not
or
that.
I'm going to kill what I don't like.
Well, that works too. Or not works.
Right.
But, and I am here experiencing this and then whatever.
Sure.
I'm going to feel this. I'm going to choose this. I'm going to imagine this. I'm going to build this. I'm going to create this. Because I'm going to say it again, while this Pluto time feels extremely powerful because it makes things happen that is out of our control and that is scary, it's still powerful. It is powerful to create. It is one of the most powerful planets that we have in creating something new. And when we can harness even a teeny little bit of that power and turn it in our lives, and that's what I'm working on.
And that's why it moves so slowly.
Right.
Because those types of shifts take time.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be on the same page.
Cruise ship doesn't
by the
turn
new
on a dime.
moon in Capricorn on Tuesday. So, right, cruise ships need a lot of space to make a turn or to turn around. And so, this has been a long time coming, and it will be a long time going.
Right.
And we've hit the crux.
Right.
Right? Now, I'm not saying that there won't be some other shocking and disturbing things.
Right.
But most astrologers can agree that 2020 was going to be that apex moment. So
2020 was the shit year.
woo, right? Like if so while we sit here thinking, I thought 2020 was the worst that I could experience, and then this happened. No. 2020 was the worst that you could experience. And now we are just seeing with clarity what was left in the wake, right? The speedboat goes rushing by and it's gone and you don't see it anymore, but the wake continues to batter you against, the waves because that's what's left behind. Right. And that's what we are really dealing with right now. An imprint, an impression of a 244-year cycle. So to take it all and put it all in this one moment, a little bit of overkill, right? But if we stretch it out over the whole period of time, boy, I can see. Yeah, we've damn near turned this cruise ship around.
Right.
At this point, we're ready to go the other direction
we're
now.
We're on the,
We're back on the right navigational path.
on the 20th point of a 26-point turn.
And I have faith in us. I do. I know that's hard to believe. It's hard for me to say, but it's true because we didn't destroy ourselves.
I've always had the thought that humanity was amazing.
And not everybody agrees that.
And sometimes I want to hang them up by their toes.
Right? Again, we're strong asses. We got this. We can do this. We can be the best instance of ourself in this instance. All we have to do is choose to change.
Figure out a way to do it.
And you only have to do it for yourself. Please quit pointing your fingers at other people and telling them what to do. We're not trying to tell you what to do, and I hope you don't believe that. We're merely speaking out loud of what we've said to ourselves, and we decided it might not be a bad idea to share it because we don't want you to feel like, well, they don't understand. No, we do understand. We're living this. We pull our pants on one leg at a time, just like you. But we really also come to understand that the reason that we've done the things that we've done leading up to this moment, that we've cleared our crap, that we've allowed our hearts to be open and vulnerable to everything, is so that we could be here to shine that light on the ledge and call the ships to shore. We are lighthouses, and we are not alone. If you are a lighthouse, I call you to action. Raise your lantern, shine your light. Just shine your light. Even if it's just so you can see yourself in the darkened room, shine your light.
Right.
Be love. It's her license plate. Be love. Because love, as the Beatles says, is all there is.
Yeah.
And love is all we need. And love will fix this. Not that anything needs to be fixed. But if it did, love would fix it. It's like Flex tape. It's alien tape. Or Flex Seal, whatever that is, right? It's the Wonder King. And allow yourself to accept that. If you are willing to allow yourself to accept the fear, to accept the frustration, to accept the hatred, to accept the anger, you can also allow yourself to accept the faith, to accept the love, to accept the hope, to accept that I have eyes that can see that there can be a change for the better. Because change doesn't care which direction it goes. That's a human construct.
Change is just change.
Change is just change. Just like the universe is just the universe. It doesn't judge. It doesn't know positive. It doesn't know negative.
Right. Yeah, storms come through, hurricanes come through, they tear down a coast. It is just what it is.
Never heard of a hurricane going, what would I want to do to these people?
Right.
It's going to be brilliant. No, it goes through and it clears a path. And it brings rain.
It does what it does.
It does what it does. And it does what it does in perfect synchronicity with the wind, with the temperature, with the cloud formations.
Land masses.
The land masses, right? And we are part of that. Yes, we are human beings on this planet, and some would call us viruses. And some would say that we are as integral a part as the soil, as the water, as the air.
Right.
Because what else is the purpose? Having this big, beautiful planet and just have it set and empty? It's like a lot of vacation destinations right now.
You know, it makes me think of that quote, be noble because you are made of stars, be humble because you are made of earth.
Oh, I love that. That gave me goosebumps.
Isn't that wonderful?
See, there's a good one right there.
Because that's literally our bodies. That's there's only this matter. That's it.
Can we end on that now? Because I kind of feel like that's a beautiful place to end.
We're good. Yeah, that can be our point.
So we send you love. We send you our prayers and our support for whatever it is that you may be struggling or reveling in right now in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we ask you to pay that forward to yourself. And watch us change this world.
It's right there. It's right there waiting for us.
And we're the ones that have been waiting for.
Right. We're here. we're the ones to do it. No one else.
Yeah.
Us. Right here.
And you can do it!
By making the choice, being courageous,
Loving.
and doing.
Loving.
Mm-hmm.
Loving yourself. Loving each other.
All right, friends. Thank you for joining us today so much. Thank you for joining us. Sending love to you. If you'd like to email us, you can get a hold of us at inmyexperience1111@gmail.com. Our website is inmyexperience.life. Our Instagram is, I brought that up, but I'm bringing that up,
again.
right? in_my_experience. And there we have listed our link tree with all of our websites and all of our information. So if you'd like to contact us, but we'll be talking to you soon.
Please like, share, and subscribe on our Facebook group, Awaken Pathways Community. In My Experience Community, formerly known as Awaken Pathway.
Formerly known as, absolutely.
And our YouTube channel, our Podbean, and anywhere else that we can find where they'll let us put this up. We thank you for listening. We thank you for being here. And I'm just in gratitude for being able to do this show today. So
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Love to you.
I'm Sonya Lee.
I'm Piperlyne.
And this has been In My Experience. Take care.